The word community comes in many shapes and sizes, like we people. And it's us as people who create the communities around us. We come together to create environments where we can live harmoniously and prosper. One can think of community as like a garden, with each individual flower being a person, with everyone still connected to this space where we can all grow and evolve. We bring each other up when we feel down. We traverse through the hard winters by retreating slightly under a blanket of white. True, the flowers are no longer visible, but we are still a part of the same garden regardless. Now, like every garden, there's bound to be weeds, and we come together to make sure that those weeds do not impact our home too harshly. We make it a safe place for more flowers to grow and make our garden become more vast and beautiful. Sometimes there are flowers who move on from our garden and go join a different one that may be far away. I myself am about to go through this process to leave my roots and traverse through the world to find my own path. But ultimately, I will never forget the origins of my roots, because our experiences and past make us into the flowers that we have bloomed into today. So never forget where you came from and where your roots are. Because one day, when you look at a garden, I hope you remember these words. We are all connected, we are all cared for, and we are all able to contribute to the gardens that we live in.
Last August, I started to have some of the worst headaches of my life. I had 5 or 6 every day. After a few months, I finally got an MRI and found out something that nobody would ever think to be possible. Something was wrong with the structure of my brain. My family ended up with a neurosurgeon at the Children's Hospital in Milwaukee. He recommended a surgery that was on the newer side but showed a lot of promise. We trusted him and we decided to go with it. A few days before that surgery, our family friends came over. I was so excited to be able to see them. Something that my family and I didn't see coming was that they put together a gift bag for us. I knew that people cared for me, but seeing this made me realize that they were really thinking of me. On the day of the surgery, my parents and I drove to the hospital in the morning and waited for go time. Everyone there was unbelievably kind. All of the different people came in to introduce themselves, and as I sat there listening, everything suddenly became real. And waking up from that surgery, realizing what just happened, it was an experience. The nurses put on some music for me, which was pretty awesome, but there was something that was off. While in surgery, I was supposed to have 2 separate operations done, but there were some minor complications, and they were able to get 1 done. When I heard that, my first thought was, they only got 1 done. But my mom and dad tried to show me that it was half done and that I was closer to recovery than I ever had been before. They kept hope in the situation and knew that this was just 1 bump in the road. The time in between surgeries was met with 2 days and long sleepless nights in the hospital. The date of the second surgery was unknown, and I didn't know what to expect. Nobody did. But it didn't matter. From day 1, I received so much love and support. My family wasn't planning to visit me. After all, it was only going to be 1 night, but they ended up doing so. My sister and both of my grandmas came together. I immediately thought of my sister and how she would feel when she saw me like this. But there's a job at the Children's Hospital called a child life specialist. These people help by providing activities and games while also helping patients to understand their diagnosis. But they also help siblings to understand and cope with their sibling being in the hospital. When my sister came into the building, the child life specialist met her at the entrance and explained to her all of the machines that would be in my room and how the room would look, just to make her more comfortable when she walked in. I knew that I looked a little bit different than she was used to seeing me. But as she settled in a bit, she seemed to be okay. After going back to the Ronald McDonald House with my parents, where my dad was staying, she came back with an adorable elephant blanket for me. My grandma brought with her a huge poster that she had made. It was of a bunch of people hugging a heart. I was the heart, and all of the people were my family and friends supporting me. Well, she and my sister made it, I guess, because my sister had to add in our hamster. I also had one of my friends check on me a lot. She has had many surgeries in her lifetime and knows what it's like to stay in the hospital. It was comforting to have, especially since she's my age. I looked forward to these texts, which weren't even asking about the surgery. It was just a simple, "How are you doing?" or "How are you feeling?" And it wasn't only friends and family, but I also met with different staff in the hospital, including the psychiatrist, music therapist, and so many helpful and kind nurses, all of which made the waiting process a bit more bearable. That next surgery finally came, and after waking up from that one, I got the news that I wanted. They did it. It was finished. The relief I felt was immense. While recovering in the hospital, my grandma brought back some banana bread, which is my absolute favorite thing ever. And after 2 more days, I got to go home. I received so much love from everyone, from my grandma's friends to my parents' coworkers. Gifts and cards came in for me, really cementing that feeling of being cared for and loved. I ended up not feeling the best, and my mom called the hospital, who told us to come back to the ER just to make sure everything was okay. I was really frustrated. It was almost 5 p.m., and I was about to drive all the way to Milwaukee. So there we were again. No one really knew what the results of that visit would be. We went in hoping for something that wasn't a big deal, and if it wasn't, to go home. Well, I didn't get to. But in these few days, I saw that nobody left my side. The child life specialist came back to check on me. My family still saw me. I wasn't as alone as I felt. And I was, and I still am, so grateful for everyone. Even now, 4 months after my surgery, I still hear that people are thinking of me. And I don't mind people asking questions. In fact, I welcome it. The more people that understand my experience, the more it helps me to feel seen, and I hope that it can make someone else's experience a little bit easier. In fact, one of my potential career options after high school is a child life specialist. I want to carry on the love that I have received from others, from all of the people who have helped me. No one person would have been able to do it alone. If I could go back to tell myself something that happened before all this happened, I would tell her that she might not love what happens, but she'll love the people that surround her and the community that she has built.
Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, cool. Hey. Hi, I'm Nathan Murton, and I'm going to present a poem of my own making. It's called 3 Chicago Nights. The child sits in the airport. In his hand, he clutches a styrofoam cup of hot chocolate. It's surprisingly much too hot, and unsurprisingly much too sweet. But he's still of that age where it doesn't really matter to him, and it's like it still tastes good. It's weird. It's a weird phase. His impatient breath fills the air, threatening to fog the windows with unbridled creativity. The child smiles, kicking his legs with excitement. Tomorrow, he can do anything. The youth pauses on the boat. Everyone's dancing. His friends are there, waiting for him, waving for him to join them. The dessert table beckons, mini cheesecake softly calling his name. The water glimmers in the moonlight. Fireworks are in the background. The youth sighs. Tomorrow, he can do everything. The teen paces the floor. He wants his ice cream sandwich. It got stuck in the vending machine. Whatever. It's gonna be ping pong time soon. That'll be fun. What's next? Sleep, hopefully. Then tomorrow, an aquarium. New adventures, new excitements. He breathes in and out. Tomorrow, he can do something. This poem was written at 3 different points in my life, all in Chicago. And I did this as a way of reflecting on my own forms of community, not all of which are in Chicago, of course. For me, community is personal as well as being extremely public. In high school, I can basically walk up to any table in the Commons and just sit down and be immersed with 1,000 daily small talks. One of my best friends, obligatory as of writing this, was made because I sat down in a random spot in my engineering class, and another in my chemistry class, and another, and another, and another. However, community to me is also deeply spiritual as well as deeply secular. Being idiots with my friends doesn't exactly mean I see the divine, but there is something really holy about it. And I have to admit, some part of me prays every time I roll a d20. There is some sort of spirituality at the snacks I have before purchasing a room in the secluded Golden Lands. This, to me, is community. So, rather than asking the obvious question of why I chose a poem or why I chose to talk about D&D, I'm going to go back to the very first word. I'd like to talk more about that. Hey, maybe one or two of you know the origin, maybe I've talked about it before, but that is the standard greeting of my robotics club, my robotics team. The leader of that, Mr. Shuck, he always says that, the president says that. It's always like all right, yeah, we're getting to work, we're gonna talk about, I don't know, software or whatever. It's Pavlov's dog. It's like a Pavlovian response. I can talk today, that's fine. It's one word, yet it transports me right back to where I was 3 months ago, listening to various people talk about what community means to them. And even now, it makes me reflect on what that community means to me. And that, to me, is community. Thank you.